Welcome back to the Plymouth Life Centre here in the heart of Devon. A lovely facility. We're having a little wander around earlier on to have a look and see exactly what there is here. And it's a question of what they haven't got here, really, to be honest. Wall climbing, they've got football, they've got badminton, they've got tennis, they've got a whole range of sports. And, of course, aquatic sports with a 50-metre pool for swimming and a great diving facility here, as we mentioned over the first couple of days, with some brand new boards as well for this early British Diving Championships of 2018, normally a bit later in the year, but because of the calendar incorporating the Commonwealth Games in 8 weeks' time, it's all happening in January, which means that we're quite happy to have some of our Olympians in the commentary position. Yesterday we had Matty Lee sitting where Jack Law is. You had your other half in terms of diving, of course not your other half in terms of relationship, but your other half in terms of diving was sitting in this chair yesterday, Chris Mears, and a very pleasant day we've had with Jack, watching all the different competitions. And up next, the men's platform synchro with some people you know pretty well. Certainly Matty Lee, who was sitting in that chair. We're talking about the combinations here. It's not rare to have divers combining from 200 miles away, and that's kind of what we've got here. We've got a Leeds-London combination with Matty and Carl Cathari, and Matthew Dixon and Noah Williams from Plymouth and Dive London.
Yeah, it's I mean, me and Chris as a synchro pair train together every day in Leeds, which works really well for us. But for these guys, you know, they meet up every month or so, maybe 2 months, just to see how each other are doing. It's not that important that they, you know, they're not working as meticulously as me and Chris were, but it's really good to see them meeting up, going to London, coming up to Leeds and stuff like that. You know, going all over the country to make sure that they're in the best possible shape for this national championships.
I should mention that there is no Tom Daly this weekend, so we won't be seeing Tom up there. So it means the Olympic combination that got the bronze medal of Daly and Goodfellow can't compete in this. But there's plenty of talented divers and some quite big dive lists as well. Like, look at Matty Lee and Carl Cathari. They go up to a forward 4.5 here, which is worth 3.7 in 10-metre terms. It's worth 3.8 in 3 metres, but only 3.7 in 10. I've not quite got that, to be honest.
Yeah, it's you know, it's because of the less time that you've got on 3 metre to complete the dives. Obviously, a back 3.5 on 10 metre is a lot easier to do because you've got so much time. Whereas in comparison to a back 3.5 on 3 metre, very rare to see from divers. It's a really hard dive. It's only, you know, maybe 10, 15 people doing it in the world at the top of it, at top end. So, yeah, it's 3 metre is a more difficult board in terms of actually fitting in the dive. You've got the board to think about as well, the movement of the board. Whereas 10 metre is scarier, harder on the body as well. And, you know, just the two different events really, but both are fantastic in their own right.
You, of course, go up to 3.9 in your individual programme.
Yes. Yeah, the 2.5 somersaults with 3 twists. Currently the hardest dive being performed at the moment. You know, I'd like to potentially push the boundaries with diving. Maybe do some inward 3.5 pike, forward 4.5 somersault pike maybe in the future. But you know, at the moment it's one of the hardest dives in the world, and it's one of my favourites actually as well. So yeah, we won't be seeing any of that today, but we'll be seeing some hard dives nevertheless.
Talking to Matty yesterday about how long it'll be before we see a 4 dive, 4.0, maybe a 4.1 dive in 3 metres. We're now seeing 10 metre. Not very often. The Mexicans do a 4.1. Will we ever see that, or when will we see that in 3 metre?
Yeah, I mean, we have seen it occasionally at more regional events. Never anything like international events like the Mexicans do, or we've had some Chinese in the past doing front 4.5 pike as well, very successfully. Actually the highest scoring dive of all time, 123 points from a Chinese bloke. Straight 10s on a forward 4.5 pike. We'll see it at some point, I think, maybe in the next 5 years, maybe this Olympic cycle. But you know, 3 metre diving's kind of reaching its peak now, and it doesn't seem like it can get much harder. But then you think back 15, 20 years, people doing their 3.5 somersaults thinking, yeah, there's no way people are going to do 4.5, and now here we are. So who knows what the future holds?
Right, so here's the lineup for the men's platform synchro. We'll have 4 pairings. Matty Lee of Leeds, Carl Cathari of Dive London, then the Plymouth and London combination of Matthew Dixon and Noah Williams, both 17 years of age. We have 19-year-olds followed by 2 17-year-olds. Then the Edinburgh combination, James Heatley having a very busy weekend, back in the pool again. Was in the synchro yesterday, back in the synchro today on the 10-meter board. Lucas Thompson is his partner, and the Plymouth combination of Aidan Heslop and Alfie Brown, the 15-year-olds from Plymouth, and they will be the 4 pairings with 6 rounds of dives. Now, if you want to know what happens in this building, I was mentioning it's a hive of activity. Let's see what the divers get up to when they're not competing.
So welcome, we're in the Plymouth dryland room. Right over there we have the dry board, which you can do flips and twists, and you can do tricks that you wouldn't normally be able to do. You can do it into there. You have harnesses which coaches will pull athletes up, protect them, keep them safe.
We've got some of our athletes being treated by our physios, our soft tissue therapists. Our bodies go through a lot, so it's important that these guys get us ready for our competitions that we're going to be doing soon. We also have the trampolines. You can practice your somersaults on the trampolines in a very fast way, as Jack is demonstrating for us. It's a good place to practice your spatial awareness so that when you go into the diving pool, you're ready to do all of your dives.
We spend, I would say, 80% of our time in the dryland room, and it's fun.
Finished in the gym and about to get in the pool and train some 10-metre dives. Yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. I always enjoy coming down to Plymouth and seeing everyone, and hopefully all the competitions go well. 2 years ago, I was 15 and I won nationals down here, so hopefully it can go the same way this year. A lot of nervous faces, but everyone gets on really well and wishes everyone best of luck.
Usually, you come up with a chamois. It's like a little towel which you dry yourself with. You make your way upstairs using that. You're usually a bit out of breath, so you want to have a bit of time to just sort of relax. You don't want to be thinking too much when you're on the board, because if you overthink things, stuff's going to go wrong. And when you're falling from this height and the impact that you fall at, you can hurt yourself. And then usually you want to do some dry run-throughs, which it's an imitation of the dive, and you go through it mentally in your head as well. And then then you just let it go. I mean, you instantly know if you hit the water if it's a good or a bad dive. And then, it's just a matter of waiting for the scores. The facilities here are brilliant. It's one of the pools that's regularly used for the Nationals. The crowd's always great in Plymouth. It's usually packed out, and it's usually a successful weekend.
It is absolutely jam-packed in here today. Even the judges who aren't judging can't find any spots. But these are the ones who do have their own designated chairs, because they will be looking at what's happening here, including the Southampton coach Lindsay Fraser. She'll be in execution judge 3 position. And there are the synchronized judges for the men. I'm just looking at Randy Abelman is the American coach, isn't he, who's looking after Alicia Black?
Yes, so Alicia went over to do university over in Miami, and she's training there as well, which is really good, because sometimes people go over for sport and sometimes drop off. But we've seen this weekend that she's doing great stuff on the 1 metre board, hopefully doing some great stuff on the 3 metre board for the Commonwealth Games this year. We'll be looking to do some synchro with Catherine Torrance as well. So yeah, Randy's over here coaching her, and it's a long way for him to come, but obviously it means a lot to her, so it's great to see him over here.
And we will see Alicia on the 3 metre synchro a little bit later on. She'll be the 5th of the pairings with Catherine Torrance in the last final of the day, the women's 3 metre. But here we have the men's 10 metre, and it's an interesting combination. There's, I'll say, some makeshift pairings. There's some pairings that we haven't seen before. I certainly haven't seen competitive level Matty and Carl Kathari compete together. So we know a bit about Matty, because obviously he's been here. We talked to him yesterday, but what's the lowdown on Kyle?
Yeah, Kyle's an extremely talented diver. He's got an amazing entry into the water. He's a very, very slender diver. He's got one of the lowest skin folds in our whole programme here in British diving. Very fast spinner. He's unfortunately had a bit of a shoulder problem in the past. He had to have an operation. But I think that's all cleared up, and he's back on the 10 metre board as of only a couple of months ago, maybe 6 months ago maximum. And he's competing here with Matty, a newish pairing. but one that's got a lot of promise with some quite hard, hard dives, a lot of degree of difficulty in there. It's going to be really exciting. I think this is maybe their first hit out. I don't know if I'm wrong, but it's going to be really exciting. I've watched their training. It's just fantastic.
Matthew Dixon and Noah Williams, 17-year-old both from Plymouth and from London. Not quite got the programme and the tariffs that Matty and Kyle have got, because they do go up to 3.6 and 3.7, do Matty and Kyle, but they'll be as high as 3.4. Lucas Thompson and James Healy. Well, Lucas is 16, James is 20, so again, there's a few years between them, but Lucas will be partnering the more experienced Scott in that one, and then the Plymouth combination, who will have a lot of support here. And I do mean there is not a spare seat. There's people actually standing on the stairwell. Shouldn't maybe be saying that because health and safety will be listening, but honestly, there is not a seat to be had.
Yeah, it's a packed out event here. 10-metre synchro is always really fun, especially after the success of Tom and Dan as well at the Olympic Games. Diving's really upped its status as a brilliant spectator sport, and you can see that today with so many spectators.
Back dive for Matty and Kyle. Remember, they are required dives to start off with, so they have to do the 2.0s in rounds 1 and 2. Back dive option for Lee and Kathari.
Yeah, brilliant entries there. Slightly out on the timings. You can see Matty landed just a little bit before Kyle, but to the naked eye, that was a pretty good dive. Beautiful entries, really, really pretty divers, both of them, so it's a great opening dive.
49.80, nice positive opening for the Leeds London combination. Now the Plymouth London combination of Matthew Dixon and Noah Williams. Just identify each for us, who we would. Jack, wiki.
Yeah, sorry.
Who's who?
So Matt Dixon, Commonwealth Games. I think he was potentially one of the youngest athletes at the Commonwealth Games in 2014. Great diver. And we've got Noah Williams as well. A diver from London. I think he was originally from Crystal Palace. This synchro pair has been around for quite a while now, actually, a couple of years, and they've competed internationally quite a few times. I think they got a bronze medal at the European Championships. So, really good stuff from them. 52 points for an opening dive is amazing. Nice start.
Obviously, all 2.0s opening 2 rounds. To go with whatever you want, whatever dive you want to do, quite frankly, but it's only worth 2.0. So you don't want to waste your best dives on that, because the marks will always be the same. You can go forward, you can go inward, you can go reverse, you can go back. All the options available to you. Inward dive is what we will see from the Scottish pairing of Lucas Thompson. And you recognise James Heatley, having seen him earlier on the right-hand side of your picture.
Two beautiful entries there again. It's really good to see James on the 10 metre as well. It's hard doing 2 events in one day. Well, 3 events, prelim, final, and then this event as well. Really good opener from them. Really nice entries, and just, wow, really nice.
Yeah, happy with that. He doesn't have a smile on his face very often, because he was a little bit below par, wasn't he, in the individual earlier?
Yeah, but hopefully this is a new event for him. Well, I say new. It's a different event for him. Hopefully going to settle that past event, put it behind him, move on with this one. New partnership, new event completely. Do his best and see what we can do here for the Scotland pair for Commonwealth Games.
Aidan Heslop and Alfie Brown, the Plymouth combination. The big dive comes, well, 2 of them actually, rounds 5 and 6, but of course everybody has to do the 2s. Start with, and they're terrible 2s. Hopefully not too terrible. Forward 1.5.
Wow, some of the best entries we've seen so far, but you can see, especially on our replay here, a little bit out on the somersault speed there. You've got one going slightly slower and one going slightly quicker. And the entries are just fantastic. You can see the 2 boys getting 2 different scores there because of that.
Yeah, those are the execution marks. Synchro, of course, is pretty symmetrical, but there's 3 judges looking at 1 set of dives, and another 3 looking at another set of dives, or diver in that case. So round 1 completed, and well, don't tend to get too much change until round 3, but Dixon and Williams leading by a couple from Thompson and Heatley, and then Lee and Kathari in 3rd, but obviously until we get to round 3 onwards, doesn't change a great deal generally, only a few points between them. But we will mark a card that Lee and Kathari have got a 3.6 in round 5, and that big forward 4.5 in round 6. Big dive for Dixon and Williams, round 6, reverse 3.5. Biggest dive for Thompson and Heatley will be, well, there's two of them, 4 and 6. Finishing with a back 2.5 somersaults, 1.5 twists, and the biggest dives back to back for Aidan Heslop and Alfie Brown in rounds 5 and 6. So round 2, like round 1, we'll have a required dive. Required dive selected by Lee and Kathari is the reverse dive, which nobody else is doing.
Yeah, so in the synchro, they've got to cover 5 different groups of the forward, backward, reverse, inward, twist, and arm stand. Now, a lot of pairs obviously will not be doing an arm stand together in synchro. It's very hard to time, you know, when to kick and everything off your hands. So usually these dives that they're doing will the required dives, will fill the spaces of the dives they're missing in their optional dives. You'll see Matty and Kyle doing 2 twists there, a back and an inward. So they've got to cover the reverse. Oh, they've got, no, 2 twists. What have they got? A twist, inward, back and front. So they've got the reverse and, you know, in there to cover. So that's for the 5th dive. So, you know, great dive for them. There you go. Look at that. Great synchro.
Well, nobody's really faltering at the moment. They're all pretty much not nailing it, getting pretty close to doing so. And certainly the case with Lee and Kathari. Now on to Dixon and Williams. And they've decided, so you can play around with it to a certain extent. They've gone from the forward 1.5 to the inward 1.5. So obviously rotating back towards the board, have to be careful to get your distance.
Oh, fantastic entries again from these boys, you know. All of them quite young, relatively. All very skinny. You can see the, you know, beautiful lines they go in, but you can see that their legs are a little bit out, especially in a pike shape when you can see that so obviously. The required dives really should be as symmetrical as possible, like a mirror image of each other. And the judges have obviously penalised them for being slightly out of time.
Talking of skinny, you're a racing snake yourself, mate. What are you talking about? Not a bloody inch of fat on you at all.
No, not skinny in that way. I mean slender as in,
you know,
not like massive bulky boys diving, you know, not a tremendous amount of muscle and power there. They're nice slender through the water.
Okay, gotcha, I think. On to Thompson and Heatley, the Scottish combination from Edinburgh, and the back dive is what they'll go with. It's what Lee and Kathari started with.
Yeah, a bit of a weird one there actually. Something I didn't expect from Lucas. He looked like he lined up a little bit too early. You can see here, yeah, the double kind of hand grab. It's a bit strange. Maybe he panicked or something felt wrong. But you know, good entries, slightly short from Lucas. It's good to see James diving really well actually, considering how his 3 metre went earlier. Very good stuff from them.
Yeah, James and Lucas have a little chat going about what happened on the, yeah, what did happen there exactly, but explaining.
It's always good doing synchro with someone that you get along with as well. So these boys train together, so you've got to assume that they're good friends. Their coach Jenny, great coach for Scotland, and you know, they'll be talking through with it, and they'll hopefully be able to put that behind them. Joke about it a little bit and then get on with their next dives.
Aidan Heslop and Alfie Brown, lowest marks from the first round. You're looking to make up a bit of ground, maybe on the Scots because of what just happened. Back dive for the Plymouth combination, both 15 years of age.
Yeah, so Alfie did a really nice entry there, but Aidan was a bit splashy, which is a bit weird, a bit different, but you know, good synchro, same line. It just looks like Aidan's landing slightly piked on his entry there. And because of Aidan's splash, it might have actually also given the effect of the judges that maybe Alfie was also splashy as well. They seem to have marked him down a little bit, but you know, not what they wanted.
45 is the mark. So not a great improvement for them from the first round. So we are at third done. Here are the standings. So at this stage, we have joint leaders. Lee Kathari, 100.80. Dixon Williams on the same. Then Thompson and Heatley, Heslop and Brown. But only 10 points between them, so that's where the competition really starts. Get into rounds 3 to 6 and see what transpires. Remember, I keep mentioning this, Lee and Kathari have very big dives at the back end, which can, as we've seen today, work one of two ways. You can send them well clear, or it could hold them back, but nobody's attempting anything in the range of 3.6 and 3.7, which they have back-to-back in rounds 5 and 6.
Yeah, finishing on those higher tariff dives, it really brings it out of them when the judges, you know, the competition's hotting up and they really get in the zone. Doing those last dives, if they nail it, the judges are going to go with them, bring the really high scores out, and hopefully give them the edge over their competitors.
So Lee and Kathari are ready to go, start round 1. And so there's a foreshortened camera angle there because it caught me out the first time. I'm thinking it looks like they're going to jump over a curtain, but that curtain is, how far would you say that is? 25 metres away?
Yeah, ages away, yeah. Just because of the angle, I guess, of the camera. But they've got a lot of pull, don't worry. It'd be almost impossible to jump anywhere near there.
Yeah, I don't think even Yona could get there. So Matty and Kyle, Lee and Kathari into the real main part of the competition now. So we up the ante from 2.0. In this case, a 3.2 back. 2.5 somersaults, 1.5 twists.
Two very good individual dives there, but I use the word individual because you can see there's a little bit of discrepancy on how high they've jumped off the board. It looks like Kyle's gone slightly early off the board, which meant that he fell and landed in the water quicker than Matty. It's unfortunate because both dives are really good there, and just put them together, a little bit more time and a little bit more practice, you know.
Synchro marks very much reflect that. Let's knock them down because, as I say, the individual very good, but the synchro marks not quite so good.
It's interesting with their list as well. They're doing back 2.5, 1.5 twists, and back 2.5, 2.5 twists. It's very complex to get your mind around, but yeah, they'll hopefully doing their harder one later.
Lucas Thompson, 16 years of age. James Heatley, 20 years of age, up next. After we see Matthew Dixon and Noah Williams, the 17-year-olds from Plymouth and London.
Oh, yeah, that's really good there. Beautiful dives, both of them. And you saw the synchro there, perfect. Look at this rotational speed. 1, 2, 3, out together, bang. No splash, well, virtually no splash whatsoever. And that's really reflected in the scores.
Put some 14 points clear of Lee and Kathari. So their biggest dive is to the back end, 3.4. But look at those marks. They are exemplary, 82 and a bit. And they'll still have some room for improvement on that dive, of course, unless they get 10s. Of course they have, but coaches will be delighted with that performance. Plymouth dive coach and also the London dive coach. Each talking to their own individual diver about what they're doing. Hopefully come up with the same ideas as well.
Yeah. So that's Alex. He's actually originally from France, from Paris. He's just moved to Plymouth recently as a new head coach in replacement of Andy Banks. Seems to be settling in really well with Matt Dixon for a great competition. He's a great coach, a very prolific coach. He's had some amazing athletes, so it's going to be interesting what he can do with Plymouth. James
Heatley has ditched those trunks, by the way. Have you noticed that?
Yeah, he hasn't got the funky trunks on anymore.
On to the reverse 2.5 somersaults.
Oh, look at that. A more simple dive in comparison to what we've just recently seen, but you can see there, when it's executed like that, it just looks so lovely. It's so nice to see when it's executed like that. Both boys there, fantastic.
Well, the execution marks are superb. The degree of difficulty was a little bit lower. That's why they haven't got the big scores. It was 2.8, but they made up for it. All of a sudden, we've got a concertina effect at the top of the scoreboard, which makes it very interesting for the remaining 3 rounds. Aidan Hislop and Alfie Brown have a little bit of catch up to do because of their 2 required rounds, only yielding 45.
Yeah, both a young pair. I mean, all of these pairs here are pretty young. It's good that they train together here in Plymouth as well. Let's see what they can do.
Playing hide and seek at the moment. Come on, boys, we know you're in there. Forward 3.5.
Ah, that was nice. Really good somersault speed together. You can see they're very much in time, and you know, the pike shape is, it can be a curse or it can be a gift, really. When the pike is performed together at the same time, it looks absolutely immaculate, like these boys just done there. But it's very easy to get the timing wrong. If you go slightly out of time, that's, you know, That's it looking awful, like a cartwheel almost. So they've done brilliant to keep in time together.
Well, keeps them in contact with places 2 and 3. Not really challenging for the lead just yet, but we're only halfway gone. 3 more dives to come, and big tariff dives they will be. Relatively for all the divers, they'll up their pace and up their intensity and up the quality of diving. Perhaps we'll see in due course, but it is Dixon Williams who lead 183, 169 to Lee and Cathari, 166 to Thompson and Heatley, and Hasloff and Brown 156. So not dropped off the back yet. The work for the Plymouth divers to do, and they haven't got a big dive list in terms of DD degree of difficulty, but they'll make the best of what they have. Reverse 2.5 in with 3, and then 3.5, and then back 2.5 with 1.5 twists. Round 4 about to commence. No, we don't get into the big territory yet. We'll leave that, or Lee and Cathari will, till we get to round 5, but the in with 3.5 is where we'll start with the Leeds and London pair. Just making their way up the stairs in a nice leisurely fashion.
Yeah, it's always hard diving in one of these events. 4 is actually quite a lot to have, 4 pairings. We saw yesterday in the women's 10 metre there was only 1 pairing, so it's hard to judge how fast to go. You don't want to be going so quick just, to make up time.
Is he going to do it by himself?
I think it's actually drying the end of the platform. A lot of divers do that, so they don't like it when there's water on the end of the platform because it can make it slightly more slippy. And if you've had a bad experience with slipping off a tower, you're obviously going to be more cautious of it.
Tower burger in my case. So Lee and Cathari are back together in perfect harmony, in unison. Let's see what they can do dive-wise with their in with 3.5.
Oh, lovely entries. Kyle slightly piked on the end there, but in contrast to their first optional dive, the timings were really good there. Really, really good indeed. Just looked like Kyle was almost not lost as such, but was unsure of where he was. He managed to get his hands somehow and take that dive down, but really good for them to come back from that back twist at the start.
73.92 for the Leeds London combination. London on the board again next with Plymouth to add with Matthew Dixon. So this is going to be their back 3.5 somersaults, towards their biggest dive, which comes at the end.
Fantastic, really good. These boys have competed for a very long time now, and they've done junior events, been very successful there, very successful in their senior events as well, as our almost reserve team for Great Britain, behind Tom and Dan. But really good from them, really, really good timings, entries, lines, everything's really good. I'm really impressed with how they're doing.
Opened up a 19-point advantage over Lee and Cathari with that dive, just edging away a little bit from the Leeds and London pair. See, in age terms, Lee and Cathari are a bit older, but Dixon and Williams have been together longer as a combination, so maybe it's starting to show.
Yeah, it's it's synchro's a hard one because some pairs take like a duck to water to it. Sometimes it takes longer to really perfect those, somersault speeds, twisting speeds, everything like that. And for some of these pairs, I've mentioned quite a few times, very young. Not lacking in experience, but all of this is experience for them. They're gaining as much as they can as a synchro pair, so every time they compete is a new one.
In with 3.5 for the Scots.
Oh, it's a big shame for James. I actually saw him in training do this the other day, and it was just perfect for, especially for someone who does 3 metre. To go out there on 10 metre and do such a fantastic dive. But unfortunately, he's washed a little bit over. The judges are going to penalise for it. Lucas's was actually pretty good, to be fair, though. I'm pretty impressed with him. Such a young guy as well.
Yeah, 16-year-old and 20-year-old pair together for Edinburgh Diving Club, but that's not going to help their battle for the top 2. Only just passing on some words, but looks happy enough.
Yeah, it's going to be good for them because they're going to have the Commonwealth Games as well, which is a really exciting event, representing Scotland instead of Team GB, obviously. But it's really exciting, out in the Gold Coast, in the sun, hopefully, outdoors, which is
Is it outdoor venue?
Yeah, it's outdoor venue, yeah. So it's going to be an interesting one, one that they will definitely be looking to as one of their majors for the year.
Aidan Heslop, Alfie Brown, the local lads, youngest pairing in this group, 15 years of age, and up next for them, a reverse 2.5 somersaults. Two biggest dives coming right at the back end of the program, rounds 5 and 6.
Oh wow, Alfie there, very interesting dive. He kicked extremely early. Look how early he kicks here, almost down at the floor. And he's had to arch his back almost into like a kind of into a C almost. You know, unbelievable. He's managed to pull that round and take that down with no splash whatsoever. Unbelievable scenes.
A bit cast adrift now because of that 52. Don't have the tariff really to put it back, you wouldn't think, on the last two dives. 3.2s compared to Lee and Cathari. Of course, that's where they could come to the fore with 3.6 and 3.7. So with 2 to go, it's a 19-point advantage for Dixon Williams. But again, we'll come back to the fact that Lee and Cathari have 2 huge tariff dives to come, 3.6 and 3.7. So they could turn that around. You know, it's not a big margin when you've got tariffs which is as big as they've got.
No, yeah, they still have, you know, room to make up the points for sure. 2 massive dives to finish, and actually last year at this event, Matty Lee put this their final dive, the 4.5 somersaults, down for 10s and scored 110 points on it. So it's not unheard of that they can make a comeback.
Well, let's see if they're going to make their comeback, and it's not a massive comeback, so they're not too far adrift. Then they'll need to do it with their 2 big dives. They kind of work towards their biggest. But this is quite a ramp up from 3.2 to 3.6 back. 2.5 somersaults, 2.5 twists. Matty always looks very relaxed. He's actually shows so little emotion. He's a bit poker faces, Matty. So I'm not quite sure what he's thinking, but I think you're right. We nail this, and we're in business.
Oh, such a shame there. He's so pumped that dive. That's actually his first time ever competing this dive. He only learnt it in the winter. And look how confident he is on those twists as well. Just slightly head down on the finish there. He's come round off his pike. You can see he's angry with what he's done. But Matty's done a really fantastic job. You know, another one that's we didn't think was going to be as successful as he is. And look at him now. He's flying. He was a World Championship finalist, doing these dives that some of the biggest boys in the world are doing. You know, we call him the big dog for a reason, and he's so angry with himself, bless him. But he needs to keep his head up because he's a fantastic diver. He's just washed it over. So powerful.
70.20 for that, but obviously that's the benefit of doing a higher tariff dive. Is even if the dive's not that great, you do get a bit of a markup because of the extra degree of difficulty. So there's a bit of counterbalance in there.
Yeah, of course. I mean, if you score 7s on a harder dive, obviously you're going to score more than you do on the 7s on an easier dive. For them, it's not. It is a drop, but not a massive one. Still quite a few points on the board. So still presenting. They've still got to do a good dive, Noah and Matty.
3.2 on this one for Dixon and Williams.
Very, very nice again. Really consistent from these guys today. A little bit of discrepancy in how the distance. You can see Matthew Dixon landing slightly closer to the board than Noah, but not terrible at all. The twist was together, the pike shapes, the somersault speed was all perfect. Lovely entries. Really pretty dive from these guys.
Now 22 points between Dixon Williams and Lee and Cathari. They finish on a 3.4 to the Plymouth London combination, and Lee and Cathari finish on a 3.7. So that's make-upable, isn't it? But they're giving themselves a big job to do now.
Yeah. I think that for Matthew Dixon and Noah Williams, their last dive reverse 3.5 is, I think it's reverse 3.5, am I correct? Yes. It's quite a hard dive for them. I think it's quite new for Matthew Dixon. So, we'll have to see how it goes. We've still definitely got a competition on our hands. That 4.5 from Kyle and Matty could be really deadly.
Last but one dive for Thompson and Heatley. Going back to 3s for the forward 3.5. I'm not going to talk this one up because this is the one that came unstuck on earlier on.
Oh, such a shame there from Lucas. You can see how pumped he is, you know. Massive opportunity, big final. He's just come round slightly head down out of that pike shape. And unfortunately, he's washed right over. I think James's was great though. I mean, you can hardly see through the splash, unfortunately, but James did a really good front 3.5 pike there. It's just a real shame that 2 dives in a row, one of them has dropped slightly. But you know, stuff to work on for the future. It's always good. All the positives from the negatives.
James' marks were on the left, by the way, at the top. That's where you saw the 7.5 and 8s. But they get negated a little bit by Lucas. So, once he got a smile on his face, he's taking it all in. That was not quite what he wanted. James did his part of the bargain on that dive. Plymouth pair of Heslop and Brown, Aidan and Alfie, up next with their inward 3.5. Feeling the way that Aidan, as a high diver, will feel a bit more comfortable in the 10 than the 3.
Yeah, more at home, I guess. The higher he goes, which is a horrible thought to me. But yeah, no, he's a fantastic guy and a really good diver. Knows his way around the dives in his home pool. Hopefully this will be the competition for him. Oh, it's a bit of a shame there. Really nice tuck shapes though from both the boys there. Really tight in the tuck shape, and that's really good to see from the judges' perspective. Look at that. Lovely. Just come a little bit unsure on the end there, and a little bit line up too quickly, which made their, you know, their bodies just over-rotate slightly. Causing quite a lot of splash, unfortunately. And they've been caned for it. It's a big shame.
Yeah, looks like they will be in 4th place. When it comes to the end of the competition, they're certainly in 4th place right now, because they're 17 points shy of Thompson and Heatley. There you are. So it looks going into the last round. So you can see there's 22-point differential between Dixon and Williams and Lee and Cathari, but that 3.7 is looming, coming next. And then Thompson and Heatley probably just about got enough in the locker to beat the Plymouth pair, but this is the big question now. Matty Lee and Carl Cathari have what we might call their joker, which they're going to play now, which is a 3.7. Now this works, and we've already said it's worth potentially 3 figures if they nail it, and that could take the competition away from Dixon Williams, who are in control at the moment, but there's enough leverage with the reverse 3.5 for Dixon Williams just to claw a bit back, but down to Lee and Cathari now to set the target for the Plymouth and London combination. 3.7, just to underline for you again. Forward 4.5 somersaults. A dive we barely saw 10 years ago.
Yeah, they're taking their time, obviously. Want to make sure they're as relaxed as possible going into this one. Big dive, a lot of nerves. You know, potential, if they hit it, they've got potential to win this. But you know, taking their time, making sure all preparation's correct, doing their mental rehearsals, physical rehearsals, just making sure they're in good spirits before they go.
I always call the version that you do the washing machine version, because it's like you're going around in a spin cycle.
Yeah.
They've got a bit more time, they've got a bit more meterage, but with you, it's basically like a whirling dervish, aren't you, as you go around?
Yeah. I mean, on 3 metre, it's very different to 10 metre. There's still quite a lot of time, but not as much on 10 metre. Hopefully this dive will be spot on.
Well, if it is, say you've got potential for getting around 100 points, certainly 90s anyway. Forward 4.5 for Lee and Cathari.
Oh, very nice. Kyle's there, very good. Matty just a slight bit short, you can see here on the replay. It's a little bit big in his shape and a little bit short, but look at that. 92 points on the board from them. Really good stuff there.
Well, we say it's worth nearly 100 if they got it spot on. They didn't quite get it spot on, but they weren't too far shy of it. 92, so there we go. That's how this competition can now radically turn around, because we are looking at, well, 80 points needed for Dixon Williams. So I've got my combinations of mathematics and arithmetic right. 336 plays 406, so yeah, 80 would take them there. That's a lot to ask, you know, even though the difficulty would allow it. It's going to have to be pretty much spot on here for Dixon and Williams, who might see the crown thrust away from them. 80 points required for Dixon and Williams now. The 17-year-olds from Plymouth and London have a big job here. Can they finish it off? They've led pretty much all the way through.
Ooh. Very short there from Noah. That's going to be interesting. I don't know how these judges are going to handle that. And you can see that he kicked early. Matt Dixon's actually not too bad, to be fair. He pulled... just not enough, unfortunately. Too big a drop. But Matt Dixon pulled on the start a little bit and brought it slightly closer than Noah. And Noah just kicked a little bit early and didn't have that time to work the entry. So it's a big shame because they had a brilliant competition up until then.
So Lee and Cathari are the winners, because mathematically, nothing that Thompson, Heatley, or indeed Heslop and Brown can do about it. So there are your winners. City of Leeds and Dive London combination. And we'll see them during the course of the year, World Series and other big events. Lucas Thompson, James Heatley for Scotland, the combination that will be in the Gold Coast in about 8 weeks' time. And they're going to finish with a back 2.5 somersaults with 1.5 twists.
Oh, lovely entry from Lucas there. You can see these boys actually twist opposite directions. You see here, one goes right, one goes left. Which does look slightly odd sometimes, but they actually made it look beautiful. James is a little bit heavy on the water, unfortunately. Couldn't quite match Lucas's entry, but really good overall. Really, really good from these guys. A couple of things to work on, definitely leading up to the Commonwealths, but really exciting to see them doing well. And I can't wait to see what they got in the springtime.
That will be enough to secure third place. So Heslop and Brown just really diving to get the best score they can. Winning score 406 for Lee and Cathari. Heslop and Brown hoping to get into the early 200s, 300s rather, 263 they are now. And last dive in this competition that we will see will be the back 2.5 somersaults, exactly the same dive that Thompson and Heatley just did, with the 1.5 twists added to make it 3.2. All right.
Excuse me. Sneezing away.
This is tight.
Oh, lovely timing from those boys. Slightly splashing the entry. A big bubble came up there, you saw, but the twists were together. The pike shapes were really nice. A little bit of foot form, I thought, there from Aidan would be nice. But overall, not a bad performance.
3:27 is where they finish, with those 64.32 marks. But in the end, it was quite a turnaround, wasn't it? In round number 6.
Always exciting to see what happens in diving.
Lee and Cathari from Dixon and Williams, from Thompson and Heatley. That was your 1, 2, 3. So well done to Matty Lee, and there's his partner Carl Cathari. See, you sit in this commentary position and you win gold medals. That's what happens. See, it's automatic.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
It's a shame we haven't got Freddie in reverse. It's kind of Freddie on day 1. We won't go to a gold today, but
yeah, shame for him today. He had a really good performance yesterday and just couldn't hold it together for those 6 dives this afternoon. But you know, really good stuff. And great performance by the boys there. 406 on the first outing. It's not bad, you know. That's not bad at all. Bit of work on the 2.5, but if Leon was here, he'd be saying, "I invented that dive."
Yes, I know. I can hear the echoes coming through the building.
Well.
Yes, yeah. He'll be on the phone a moment. Go, by the way, have you told them I invented that dive?
Well, it looks like they might need to learn a lesson from him, eh? But no, that was really good from those boys. We're really happy with that.
So there we have the result of the men's platform synchro. Lee and Cathari, 406.17, winning it in the end by 18 points from Dixon Williams, Thompson Heatley in third place. So we're not done yet. Don't go too far away, because in the next 20 minutes to half an hour, we will be bringing you the concluding event of the day. That is the women's 3-meter synchro. We have 5 pairs going in that, from Sheffield, the Sheffield-London combination, and all Leeds combination. In fact, 2 of them, and Crystal Palace have a pair in there as well. So women's 3-meter synchro, last event on day 2 of the British Diving Championships. Stick around, don't go too far away.
And the results of the men's platform synchronized finals in 4th place.
last of 4 finals on day 2 of the British Diving Championships 2018 at the Plymouth Life Centre in Plymouth. Hello from me, Bob Ballard, once again. Thank you for rejoining us. We being myself and Jack Law, although being Jack Law, because Jack Law is not with me right now, but he'll be with me for this last event. I think it's finding this commentary like almost as taxing and almost as debilitating as doing 6 dives up on the 3-metre platform, 3-metre springboard. Not quite sure that's the case, but William and Jack, Olympic gold medalists from the synchro on the 3-metre in Rio, and silver medalists, of course, in the individual from about 18 months ago, very shortly. As we prepare for the women's 3-metre synchro, and there will be 2 pairs from Jack's club, City of Leeds. There'll be 1 from Crystal Palace, and then we have a hybrid from City of Sheffield and Dive London, and an all Sheffield combination as well. So we're looking for the future of women's synchro. Millie Hafferty and Millie Fowler will go for Sheffield. Yasmin Harper and Scarlett Mew-Jensen, of whom a lot is expected down the track over the next few years from Dive London. Amy Reid and Emily Bearpark, also somebody who's being funded now from City of Leeds. Evie Smith and Evie Summers, the 12-year-old and the 14-year-old. Yeah, a 12-year-old in the synchro coming up, Evie Smith. And they're the much more experienced and really red-hot favourites, you would think. Catherine Torrance and Alicia Blagg. Alicia based in Miami these days after leaving Plymouth, but she knows this facility well. It was here in the lead up to Rio. And Catherine Torrance, who was the champion yesterday in the 1-metre. So they'll be going in the 1 to 5. Women's 3-metre synchro coming up. And just like with the men's 10, just to reiterate for you, you're probably aware of this, if you're a big diving fan, aficionado, you will be, of course, but they're also, we are aware there are new converts to the sport coming on board all the time, so we don't take anything for granted. That the first 2 rounds, as in the men's, will be required dives, so they'll be worth 2.0, regardless of what they do. You'll see a lot of dives being repeated, back dives in particular, with the women here, and then we get into 3 rounds, 5 rounds for the women, 6 rounds for the men, and the main dives will come from round 3 onwards. Well, he stopped signing autographs, having selfies taken with him, and basically being the most popular man in Plymouth, so I'm very glad that we've found some time to accommodate Jack Law.
Life of a superstar, eh, Bob?
Yeah, but it must have been like, actually, seriously, last 18 months must have been a bit of a whirlwind for you.
Yeah, I mean, it settled down pretty quickly. You know, people in Leeds are still very complimentary of it, especially people in diving. To win Britain's first ever gold medal at the Olympic Games was obviously a massive, massive career height for me and Chris. But you know, life's pretty normal, really. Still living in the same place. Driving a nicer car now, but you know, having a good time with it, really.
Yeah, life certainly has changed, and you know, there's not too many people, as you mentioned, in diving terms. Obviously, you're the first. You and Chris are the first for Britain has ever won a gold medal at the Olympics off the diving board. So that's something they'll never ever be able to take away from you. You know, there might be some that come down the stretch. Maybe Tom might possibly win in Tokyo, but you'll be the first.
Yeah, you know, we'll always be the first. I was the first to ever win multiple medals in the games as well. So you know, 2 records for me. It's kind of nice, to be fair. But it's still, you know, gold and silver, still leeway for more, which is always nice.
Yes, you're still ambitious, aren't you? You still want that big G in the individual in 2020, and hopefully it'll come. Let's have a look at the women's 3-metre synchro. And Millie Hafty, Millie Fowler for Sheffield. Yasmin Harper, Scarlett Mew-Jensen of City of Sheffield Dive London. So we work our way along. Crystal Palace, Evie Smith and Evie Summers after we've seen Amy Reid and Emily Bearpark. And here, I've got to say, we're looking for red-hot favourites. Surely these are they that we're looking at.
Well, they're a brand new pairing, both very, very successful individual divers. And obviously, Alicia been 2 times at the Olympic Games in synchro. Very, very experienced synchro pairing. Well, individually, they've done, you know, Catherine with Grace, Alicia with Becky Gallantry in the past. But, you know, it's a brand new pairing for them. So it's going to be interesting to see how they've done. And obviously, whilst Alicia's diving in Miami, they can't really train together very often.
Well, I was about to say, we talk about separation of synchro pairs, and we're talking about 200 miles. We're not talking about 3,000 miles.
Yeah, I mean, across the pond it's pretty hard to do what they're doing, but you know, we were lucky enough to have a camp out in Tallahassee, to which Alicia came down to, where they started their synchro training. And then Alicia came back home for Christmas, and obviously we're here now, so they've actually had 3 times to train together. But obviously it is hard being that far apart to be able to perfect it. So hopefully over the weekend they've managed to get things together, and you know, this is our Commonwealth pairing potentially, so let's all hope the best for them.
Now, interestingly, her coach is judging.
Yeah,
One of the execution judges.
Bit of a weird one, but maybe he won't be her execution judge. But no, it's actually really fair with diving, with the knocking off the top score and the bottom score and everything like that. So hopefully, you know, he's a good judge, he's a well-renowned coach and judge. So I'm sure he'll be as unbiased as possible.
So there's your lineup. There's a hybrid pair from Sheffield and Dive and London, but apart from that, all of them operate out of the same kind of facility, though, as we mentioned, Catherine Torrance and Alicia Blagg did, but don't anymore, because Alicia is over the other side of the pond. 3-minute synchro star list. Required dives round 1 and 2. Just looking for any kind of big dives. There's not really a standout dive, is there? Unlike the men's, where we had the forward 4.5. The women's, I wouldn't say predictable, that's not quite the right word, but there's nothing that really stands out in terms of, right, this is the signature dive, the big dive that might turn it around. They're all going for a relatively similar plan in terms of their DDs.
Yeah, there's not any front 4.5-esque dives here. You know, there's no 3.7s or anything like that. They're all sticking to the easier dives relatively. And in women's diving 3 metres, this is kind of the top end of diving really. The 2.5 piked, 3.5 piked, full out. We've seen some double outs, forward 2.5, somersaults or 2 twists from some international divers, but that's very rare. You know, the Chinese are nailing these dives for 9s and 10s, and the rest of the world trying to catch up. So hopefully we'll see some brilliant diving today, and you know, hopefully the start of a new pair.
Yeah, it is actually an event when you look at the world stage where Chinese diving is probably at its strongest, women's 3 metre.
Yeah, I don't think I have ever seen Shirting Mao ever lose a 3 metre. And I mean, I've been on the circuit for a while, and so has she, and I literally have never seen her come second, ever. She is fantastic, so consistent, so precise. She knows these dives at the back of her hand, very, very strong, so the 2.5s and 3.5s are very easy for her, and just no one can touch her at the moment. And the 3 metre synchro, you know, some fantastic pairs we've seen in the past, and it's just brilliant. So the rest of the world's trying to catch up, but, you know, people are getting closer now.
Yeah, we've seen that in the other events, obviously in your event, and the 3 metre individual for men, and in the synchro, and then the 10 as well, but the 3 synchro and 3 individual for women, well, it's dominated by the Chinese. Well, let's see what the Brits can perform here. 5 pairings. Sheffield up first. Millie Hafferty, Millie Fowler, 18 and 19 respectively.
2 Millies off to a very nice start there. Slightly out on the distance, you can see there, you know, one's a little bit back and a little bit further back from the other one. They're nice dives overall. Just a little, you know, a little bit higher maybe. But yeah, nice start.
3 of the pairings will go with the back dive for their opening dive. Millie Hafferty and Millie Fowler being the first of them, and Yasmin Harper and Scarlett Mew Jensen being the second pairing to do this. Now, Scarlett Mew Jensen, I was mentioning in the introduction, is one of the divers that's kind of being looked at by Talent ID, and she's now got funding. So obviously the powers that be within British diving feel that she's a name for the future. 16-year-old from Dive London and the 17-year-old from Sheffield combining here.
Yeah, 2 good dives again. You can see that Scarlett's just a little bit fast into her back dive there. She's picked up her feet very, very quickly, which has just caused a slight over-rotation, and just to be a little bit heavy on the water as well. You know, all right synchro scores, and maybe a bit of a shaky start, but not bad.
Right, some divers that you know very well because you train in the same program as them. And Emily Bearpark, I mentioned about Scarlett Mew Jensen getting funding now, so too is Emily.
Yeah, Emily's yeah, she's a great prospect. She's a very, very neat diver, you'll see. She's very beautiful in the air. Her shapes and her twists are absolutely fantastic. Her and Amy are brilliant friends. Get on like a house on fire. So it's nice to see these two competing together and just having a good time with it.
Yeah, a bit of a change from the norm to the forward 1.5 there.
Yeah, a lovely opener for them. Usually pairs tend to stick to the back dive to start, or a standing dive, so inward dive as well. But they've opted for the front 1.5. Very, very nice opener from them. Could be a little bit tighter on the out from the pipe shape in preparation for the lineup, but yeah, still pretty good entries, nice dives.
Interesting thing is, for round 2, they'll add a twist, but actually not worth any more. So the twist will normally be worth 0.3 more with it on the dive, but they're not going to get any more from that because they can only get 2 max anyway.
Yeah, so all the required dives usually are less degree of difficulty than 2 anyway. For these dives, it gives more options of what they can do without having any unfair advantage on their opponents, of course. So, you know, all looking at 2 degree of difficulty. I think a front 1.5 is 1.6 maybe, and a front single twister maybe 1.92, I don't know. You won't see any 3.5s, certainly.
No, that's for certain. That's the opening dive from the 2 Eevees. Got 2 millies and 2 Eevees.
How interesting. Yeah, so, you know, a little bit splashy there from those girls, both very young though. It's good to see young kids synchro pairings, of course. Gives them an extra event to do here, extra experience that they're gaining. Their coach Lin there, very famous Chinese diver back in the day, World Cup champion. I'm sure coaching them to hopefully be brilliant divers in it.
Evie, by the way, is 12. 12 years of age. Evie Smith, that is. Evie Summers is 14. Right. The big hitters have arrived. Nice cozzies too. Matching cozzies. Look.
Yeah, they always look to try and get the most, you know, matching costumes. Usually people stick to just one colour.
Well, Torrance and Blagg with their inward dive to start.
Very, very nice again. You can see there's a little bit distance. Catherine's just a little bit further back than Alicia. But Alicia's got a really nice entry on her there. Catherine's just slightly splashier than Alicia's, but both really good dives, to be honest with you. A nice opener for their first ever dive together.
47.40 for Torrance and Blagg. I'll be very surprised if they're not at the top of the table at the end, but strange things can happen, as we've seen today. Unpredictable things can happen. As we get into round 2, Millie Hafferty and Millie Fowler. So it was Sheffield. And again, just saying, kind of getting away from the norm. We see reverse dives, back dives, forward dives, inward dives occasionally. But they are going to go with exactly the same dive that Amy Reed and Emily Bear Park started with for leads in their second of the required. It's the forward 1.5.
Very long wait here. Oh, absolutely lovely. You can see Millie Hafferty over there on the furthest away from the camera. Slightly rolled in, and Millie Fowler was a little bit, just looked like a little bit heavy on the water there, a little bit of splash thrown up, unfortunately. But nice dives. Could see them competing synchro again together.
Which brings me on to the counting, right? With you and Chris, who does what?
Chris says ready. When we, you know, he'll realise that we've kind of settled and both of us have got our arms down by our sides. He will say ready. I will say yes to confirm, and then he will say 3, 2, 1, go.
Right. Because there are all kinds of different systems I've noticed through the years. Some people do the 3, 2, 1, or there's a signal sometimes.
Yeah.
As long as you both go at the same time,
yeah,
obviously it helps. But
a little bit confusing.
Yeah, and sometimes, depending on the type of dive, it changes. That one half of the combination will do it for certain dives, and another will do it for other dives. I haven't quite worked that out, but you almost kind of want one person to do it all the way through, but go, no, this is a back dive, so you're going to do that one. This is a forward dive, so you're going to do that one.
Yeah, I think that people just do what they're comfortable with. And for Chris, he was comfortable to do it from the get-go. But, you know, for him, it was because he used to compete with Nick Robinson-Baker, who used to count. So for him, it was about working out the breathing technique after speaking to then get ready to go.
Yasmin and Scarlett Mew.
Really nice dives there, both individually. You can see that Scarlett was a little bit behind coming out the board there. Both landed in the water at the same time, luckily. Entries could have been slightly better, but still, you know, overall quite good.
So last of the required is a forward dive. You've just seen it. 42 is what they get. 84.60 is what they have got, which slips them just in behind Hafferty and Fowler on round 2. I think it's a combination. We talked about Emily. Didn't really talk much about Amy. Give us a lowdown on Amy before we see them.
Yeah, so Amy's just competed today in the women's 10 metre individual. She has done every single board here, apart from 10 metre synchro. You know, she's doing well with school at the moment. Really nice girl, very, very happy girl. Lovely, really nice there. Both twists in different ways, again, but actually looks very nice on the 3 metre board, to be fair. Amy's just slightly rolled and Emily's just slightly undercooked it there. Both very slightly different dives, which the judges will pick up on.
Yeah, and they have done. That's reflected and indicated in the scores. 40.20 is what they accumulate. Now, I would love to explain the scoring system in synchro, but it takes forever.
Yeah.
So just take the scores as they appear. So the amount of people who said to me, could you tell me how they get the scores in the synchro? So have you got half an hour?
Yeah, with the 2.0s, the first required dives, the 2 rounds, the dream score is 100 points off those 2 dives, so 50 each dive, which is harder to achieve for some of these pairings, especially being younger. But at the higher end, you want to be scoring at least 50 per dive.
Individual though, well, I can tell you to take the top 2 and bottom 2 off and then multiply the middle 3. That's nice and straightforward, but the calculus for the synchro is a little bit more complicated, and you don't want to trouble yourself with it right now. Just accept the scores as they appear. Catherine Torrance, 19 years of age, and Alicia Blagg, as we mentioned, now based in the States. One of our Olympians, well, 2 of our Olympians here, side by side. And forward dive to round off round 2.
Really good from those girls, actually. Very, very similar heights reaching the top. You can see that the out of the pike shape is a little bit quicker from Catherine's end. She's very quick into the pike shape and very fast to snap out as well, whereas Alicia stays deep in that pike longer before flicking out. So the judges will obviously have some discrepancy on how they mark it. But you know, overall, 2 good dives, nice and clean in the entries as well.
Gives them an early lead after 2 rounds. It's going to go up on your screen, I think. Any moment now, little glitch. Here she comes. Hafferty and Fowler, Harper and Mew Jensen, Reed and Bear Park, and Mark's not in for Torrance and Blagg. Not quite sure what happened there. They've not been added in yet. There's a little problem with the system because it should be.
I think they'll be leading overall.
Yes, I think they are. But for some reason, there's a little glitch on the system which needs to be corrected before we move on, I think. Ah, there we go. Has been now, 93. So Torrance and Blagg from Hafferty and Fowler. Yeah, as I was reading that, I thought that wasn't right, but yeah. Torrance and Blagg have got the best scores so far. Millie Hafferty, Millie Fowler. Ah, right, we're yeah, the little technical glitch, so I was alluding to, means that we have to just halt proceedings for a moment. Up and down screening was corrected. I think it's going to be corrected. Yeah, all good now. Yeah. There you go. Oh, there you go, and there it goes. Now it's back.
There we go.
Now you see it, now you don't. Torrance and Blagg, Hafferty Fowler, thank you very much, and we'll move on. So we're ready for round 3, and the first of the selected dives, if you like. The first 2 are required, but from now on in, that's what they feel comfortable with. They have to do the different versions. You can't just do 5 forward dives, of course. You have to do the different categories: back, forward, reverse, and inward. And one has to have a twist involved.
Yep.
And this does. Forward 2.5 with 1 twist, 3.0. So they move up by a whole point into this one.
Oh, really nice dives there. Unfortunately, slightly short and splash on the end. But look at this synchro there. Flicks at the exact same time. The twists are perfect. Just a little bit heavy on the water from Millie Hafferty there. Furthest away from the camera. But really good dives. That synchro was immaculate.
56.70 is what they accumulate. 144.90 is the mark to be set for round 2. So that's the Sheffield combination. There's Sheffield involvement here. Yasmin Harper and also Dive London's Scarlett Mew Jensen. 17 and 16 respectively. Biggest dive comes at the end. They're forward 2.5 with 1 twist, but this will be an inward 2.5 somersaults for round 3.
Ooh, really, again, 2 individually beautiful dives. But you can see here, the Yasmin's actually opted to do the pike out of the tuck position. So they're spinning around in the tuck, and some people kick into a straight position, so straight up when they're completely vertical. And some people like to come into a pike shape to assess where they are and then line up. So there's a little bit of difference in those 2 dives. Both of them individually very good dives.
Next up, first of the 2 leads combinations. And, as we've mentioned and commented and credited the causes of Torrance and Black, these are nice 2. It's Reed and Bear Park, Amy and Emily, up for their back 2.5 somersaults. A bit of a differential in height there, isn't there? A little bit on that angle, but I don't think it's as much as that camera showed.
Ooh, see, synchronised, back in the day, synchronised scores were actually done on how the dives look together. So that would score very high back in the day in synchro scores, but it's changed now. Synchro kind of takes into perspective how the dives were as well. Whereas that would probably score, 10 years ago, that would have scored 8.5, 9s on synchro because both of them washed over. But this day, unfortunately, they've changed the system, and they're not actually praising dives that go badly now, which makes sense in a way, but also takes away from the synchro factor, I guess, in a way.
Yeah, well, it took a long time for synchro to evolve, I think, because it was very much experimental, sort of Sydney to Athens, kind of Athens onwards it started to evolve and start to properly emerge. So we watch the 2 Evies, Smith and Summers from Crystal Palace with their inward 2.5 somersaults. Yeah,
It's strange to think that someone so small can make a large amount of splash like that, of course, but obviously when you go into the water slightly wrong, you can see the one first from the camera is kicking quite a lot of splash there. I'm landed almost in a tuck shape, unfortunately, there. And that'll come with experience. You can see, their coach is happy with how they're doing. Just happy to have them here, really, and competing. So it's good that these girls are getting early experience in.
42.12, and our leaders after 2 rounds, as they will be massive surprised that they're not there at the end of the programme. All 3s now for Torrance and Black, all the way through 3.0, forward 2.5 somersaults and 1 twist in round 3.
Ah, yes, brilliant. I saw these 2 girls do this lead up earlier on the 1 metre board, and they were a little bit out of time, maybe a little bit ill practiced, but today, those hurdle steps were perfectly in time. Really good height out the board, and both of them doing really good dives together. And full out, is a really common dive for girls to do.
Didn't land together, did they, in terms of where they were in the pool? This is one thing. I've had this argument over a few years that if you land at a different part of the pool, it's not synchronised.
No. So you saw there, obviously the judges see a side-on view. So from them, what you want to be able to see as a perfect synchronised dive is not to be able to see the other athlete. You want all the twisting elements, the somersaults, all to be completely perfect, so you can't even see the person behind them. And unfortunately, when Catherine's a little bit more forward than Alicia, obviously you can see Alicia, so it does break the synchro down a little bit. Not to the point that the judges are going to give them 4s and 5s, but it does make it slightly different, so they are going to penalise slightly.
12 points of differential now between Torrance and Blagg and Hafferty and Fowler, who are up next. Start of round 4. Now their 2 3.0 dives go 3 and 4, and they've got a 2.7 to round things off. So if they are going to put pressure on Torrance and Blagg, who are doing exactly the same dive in this round, this needs to be a little bit better. Reverse 2.5 somersaults in the piked position. There's the old counting.
Yeah.
See how it's working.
Oh, it's a real shame there, because both Millies had a great pick up into that pike. Look at how synchro that is. Synchronised is just fantastic. They're both just, well, Millie Hafty's kicked a little bit early there, unfortunately, and let her legs drop short. Millie Fowler just a little bit short and a tiny bit splashy really on the end. Big shame because that was a beautiful start.
So on to the Sheffield-London combination. Yasmin Harper, 17 years of age. Scarlett Mew Jensen, 16. And as I say, Fish Diving reckons she's one of the ones to watch, one of the ones to follow. That's why she's now getting some funding. And this will be the reverse 2.5.
That's a big shame there. Both really good tops. Look at the height out the board from Yasmin there. She just overcooked it slightly there. It's a little bit late and she's pulled with her chest, unfortunately. And that's just pulled her over. A real big shame. So what a great start. Yeah, Scarlett's dive, all right. I think it's masked, unfortunately, by how over Yasmin's was.
42.84 is their final score on that one. Amy and Emily. Quite a few upheavals at Leeds last year, but the programme is still going from strength to strength.
Yeah.
Coaches may leave, but divers stay.
Yes, we've actually had some retirements as well. Rebecca Gallantry retired last year. Adi and Edwin both left.
Oh, out of time.
A little bit out of time there, and also almost not close from Amy, but you don't want to be getting any closer than that. It was on the line, as they call it in diving, and Emily was actually quite good there. Really impressed by Emily, because that's one of her harder dives. But Amy's just brought her shoulders into the equation. When you move your shoulders back like that, unfortunately it brings the dive a bit closer to the pool, to the diving board, sorry. That's just affected her rotational speed and cooked it over, unfortunately.
Well, you've seen them do it. Let's see how Evie and Evie do it. Smith and Summers from Crystal Palace. They are going for exactly the same option. 2.8 degree of difficulty on this.
Oh, look at that. Little pocket rocket, both of them. You know, it's been so small, they can spin extremely quick, so look how high they're finishing that dive. Got a lot of time. Unfortunately, not quite the entries that maybe they would be wanting. But like I say, they're so young, they've got a lot of time to work on that with their coach. I'm sure that, you know, being a Chinese diver in the past, I'm sure she'll work really hard to get those entries up to notch.
52.08. They're getting around the 52s at the moment, aren't they? That kind of region on these dives. Now we've seen a lot, 2.8. In fact, we've seen 3 in a row. We're going to up the ante just a bit, 3.0, as the last 2 dives are for Catherine Torrance, nearest us. Alicia Blagg on the far side. Reverse 2.5.
Ooh. Yeah, Catherine's done a really good job there. They were slightly out on the timings there, but you can see Alicia's pressed her feet just a little bit early and she's had to crimp her legs a little bit. It's the dive that, you know, Alicia's struggled with over the past. She's always struggled with the back and reverse spinning, but, you know, I've seen some really good work that they've done over in Miami. And she's actually had a really bad wrist injury recently as well. And she's had it for quite a few years now. So her training has been, you know, spotted, and, you know, not quite as consistent as she wanted to. So that's really starting to show here.
Well, only 10 points between Torrance and Blagg and Hafty and Fowler. The winner's probably going to come from those two, but the difference in the degree of difficulty last round, 2.7 for the Millies, and for Catherine and Alicia, 3.0. So there's 0.3 difference between them, and 10 points difference between them going into round 5, final round for the women. Just heads up for tomorrow, we'll be back on. I will be on at 5 to 10 tomorrow because you've had enough. And Freddie Woodward will be alongside me for the last day of competition here. But have you enjoyed it today?
I've really enjoyed it, yeah. It's going to be a nice competition of the commentators, I think. I'm excited to see how Fred does. He's very good with the media and everything like that. So I'm sure it'll be a good new sidekick for you.
Millie Hafferty, Millie Fowler. And this potentially to win it. Certainly not out of the realms of possibility because they are champing at the bit and also nibbling at the heels of Torrance and Blagg. Got to get this right though. Inward 2.5 somersaults to finish in the tuck position.
Yeah, very, very nice dives, you know. Millie Fowler's pushed back a little bit, and you can see there they're not quite in line with each other. And when she pushes back like that, it means that, you know, her dive is going to be slower, it's going to be lower, and it does have the tendency to drop quite short there. And that's just unfortunate for a final dive. You know, overall 5.5, 6s from the judges, not too bad.
Yeah, probably not done enough really to put pressure on Torrance and Blagg for #1 position, but they'll be trying to hold them desperately if they can to position #2. As we again take a glimpse into the future, 17-year-old, 16-year-old Yasmin Harper, Scarlett Mew Jensen. Now they are going for their biggest dive last. It's quite a complicated one too. It's a forward 2.5 somersaults with 1 twist.
Look how high Scarlett's jumped there. It's really impressive to see how much height she actually gets out the board. It's unfortunately, you know, pushed the sinker out of timing a little bit, but just a brilliant direction out the board, amazing height, really nice dives. Slightly, you know, could be a lot better on the entries. Something to work on this year potentially. But, you know, good dives.
That's them done. Now on to the first of the 2 leads pairings. Amy Reid, Emily Bear Park. Their 2 biggest dives can be around 3 and 4. Now this is where they finish off with the inward 2.5. They're on 175, so looking to get maybe 230, 240 potentially.
Ooh, Amy's done a really good job there. She was obviously upset with how her reverse was before. She's come back and she's done, you know, quite a nice dive there, slightly over, but, you know, a good dive. And Emily there is just, unfortunately, she's kicked into that pike shape so strong, but slightly early of rotation. And when you kick into that pike shape, it just slows you down naturally. And that means she's just dropped it, you know, slightly short, but really good work from these girls.
Like all these pairs, even Torrance and Blagg, still work in progress. Now the 2 Evies, Smith and Summers from Crystal Palace. And well, they go down to 2.4, which sounds like with the description of the dive should have more in terms of tariff, but it's a back 1.5 somersaults, 1.5 twists, because it's only got 1.5 of each. 2.4 is what it's worth.
Very nice. You can tell these girls train together. They've got very, very similar techniques in everything they do. Unfortunately, a little bit splashy on the end, but, you know, really, really positive to see such, you know, talented youth coming through. We've seen some brilliant divers today in both the men's 3 metre and the women's 10 metre from such young girls and, you know, everyone from the Crystal Palace Diving Club.
Similar equation now for Torrance and Blagg, 40 points. That's what they require. Back 2.5 somersaults for Torrance and Blagg. 40 will be well within their compass. They'll be looking to get much above that. Looking hopefully to get 60 plus or so in that range. But 40 is all they need to take the title.
Ah, very, very nice finish from those girls there. See, Catherine's slightly backed off again, but really good work in the synchronisation with such little time to prepare. Pike shape's very, very good. Yeah, really good dive, really good finish.
64.80, so they win that with quite a bit to spare in the end. Win it by around 25 points from the opening pair of Millie Hafferty and Millie Fowler. Third Yasmin Harper and Scarlett Mew Jensen, and well, there's a lot of potential progress there for Torrance and Blagg. Though, as we mentioned, of course, Alicia will be on the other side of the ocean, and Catherine will be part of the Leeds program, but I'm sure they'll be in constant conversations about how they want to change things.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting partnership for Commonwealth Games. Randy's doing some brilliant work with Alicia. She's a fantastic diver, been to two Commonwealth Games, 2 Olympics. She's very experienced in a synchronised diving event at such a young age as well. It's really good to have her alongside Catherine, who at the World Champs finished 4th, I think it was, in synchro this year. So, you know, really, really good.
So let's round things off for you. 266, winning by 25 or thereabouts. Sorensen, Blagg, Hafferty and Fowler, Harper and Mew Jensen in 3rd place. Well, that rounds off day 2 for us at the British Diving Championships 2018. Thank you for your company. Thanks very much to Jack, who's been with me since 10 o'clock this morning. You realise it's 25 to 7 now.
Wow, long day, and I've trained twice as well. So
yeah, you've crammed a lot in. Thank you, sir, and we'll catch you on
so
the board. This is what we have for you tomorrow, starting at 10 to 10 on YouTube. Women's 3-metre preliminary, men's 10-metre preliminary, and then the finals in the afternoon, 2:45 and 3:45, available to you on YouTube, on the BBC Online, and also on the Olympic channel as well. From Jack Law and myself, Bob Ballard, thank you for a great day with you being there, and hopefully we provide you some great entertainment. We'll have more of it for you tomorrow. Till then, good night.